Welcome to yet another Zensible webinar. And today it's going to be both fun and interesting on the topic of movement therapy. I'm sure you all know that when we engage in any intentional sort of movement, we are not just exercising our bodies, we are also activating neural pathways. When you activate these pathways, it can help regulate emotions, improve self awareness, and even process trauma. Research shows that movement therapy has been shown to reduce anxiety and depression by up to 40% in individuals struggling with mental health issues. And also, specifically for neurodivergent individuals, trauma survivors, and those dealing with stress or emotional dysregulation, movement therapy provides a very safe and structured way to reconnect with their bodies and emotions. I learned all of these fascinating approaches and topics after having spoken with our speaker here, Preethi Rajagopalan. She is a certified dance movement therapy facilitator with practitioner with over 9 years of experience. Preethi has worked extensively with corporate teams, schools, hospitals also, I think, and community groups, and she is helping individuals harness the power of movement for emotional self regulation and overall well being. She specializes in integrating trauma informed movement practices, expressive arts, and mindfulness to support individuals in their healing journey. Today, she'll be sharing us all some practical insights, real world applications, and techniques that you and I, as practicing and aspiring psychologists, can integrate into our own therapeutic work. But first things first, I hope you all had a great Women's Day and happy Women's Day to you as well, Preethi. And thank you for joining us on this Women's Day special episode.
Thank you so much, Veda, for having me here, and happy Women's Day to you too.
All right. So before we start, I wanted to just check with the audience. How many of you have ever used movement in your sessions, either through grounding exercises, somatic techniques, or body-based interventions? Drop a quick yes or no in the chat. Like I said, we love to have an active chat window. So go ahead, say, yes, I have integrated, or I have known about it, I have read about it, or no, I have not known about it. So while we wait for your responses, I also wanted to say I am Veda from Zensible. I am an active learner, just like all of you are. And I am looking forward to having some really, really good session and learning from Preethi. So right. Neha says, yes, I have practiced the same in my university. Yes, I'm aware of the same. That's great. Great. Thank you so much for saying yes, you have. So feel free to add any sort of comments as we go along so that we keep it interactive. Thank you. Fantastic. So whether you're new to movement therapy or already you know about it, know elements about it, hopefully we will get a deeper understanding today. So, Preeti, I have told a lot about, oh, it helps with trauma, it helps, reconnect your emotions and everything. But I want to understand, how does movement help in processing emotions and trauma? And also, why does this mind-body connection help us have better mental health?
Okay. Yeah. So I think I'll start with the mind body connection because I think that's one of the fundamental principles on which dance movement therapy is based. So the mind body connection, I think there is a lot. People are talking about it now, and it's nice to see that over the last 9-10 years that I've been in this field. Now I can see a lot of talk happening. At least you see articles talking about it. So in very simple terms, what affects the body affects the mind, and vice versa. What affects your mind will affect your body. Because a lot of times, it has always been thought that whatever we go through, it's in the mind, but it affects our entire body. So the brain is not the only place where emotions are stored. It's the muscles, the movement patterns that we have, the fascia in our body. These all can hold past experiences. So the mind body connection is kind of fundamental, how we experience, process, and heal from emotions and trauma. Actually, our nervous system, muscles, posture, everything is kind of, and breath, all interact, and in these different emotional and mental states. So movement therapy uses body as a direct pathway to access and transform these emotional experiences. So that's just giving you a little bit of background. If I have to say that somebody who has experienced trauma may, unconsciously kind of hunch their shoulders, the jaw clenches, or sometimes they avoid certain movement patterns or are very restricted in certain movement patterns, and that is these are automatic responses to what they have been through long after even the traumatic experience or event is over. Still these continue, these memories just stay in the body, and that continues like they are still in that trauma. So this is something that we work with, changing these movement patterns, accessing these the nervous system, working with the nervous system. Now I'm talking about the nervous system, so let me give you a little bit about the science behind that. So the nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, controls the fight, flight, response, rest response also in the body. And in trauma or chronic stress, the sympathetic nervous system, which is part of the autonomic nervous system, gets activated. And this, continuous activation where even though the event is over, or in chronic stress, it's continuously activated. This leads to anxiety, hypervigilance, that is an emotional dysregulation, and that is seen in trauma survivors quite a lot. Now, the other side is the parasympathetic nervous system, and that kind of helps calm the body and reduce stress. Now that is what we work with, kind of reduce the activation of the sympathetic nervous system and access the parasympathetic. So that is something that we work through movement, and certain movements can help access that and activate this parasympathetic. So that's just to give you a little bit of the science behind it. Of course, there is a lot more. Yeah, I think this is something, yeah.
So, if I understand you right, I understood the science behind it, but I want to try and see if I understood it right. Right? When you are in a really tense situation, then your sympathetic nervous system activates and makes you feel like nervous and sometimes excited, and it increases your heart rate.
Right.
And then once that situation, that is, for example, when I'm starting this webinar, I'm like all
Yes,
very
yeah.
nervous, I'm sweaty, I had to put on my fan so that I calm myself down. But then once I get into the routine and the conversation has been established, the parasympathetic nervous system comes and tells me that everything is okay and you can calm down now. So
Right.
eh, in certain individuals who may have been under trauma, you're saying that their parasympathetic nervous system does not send that response in time for them to change their patterns, and movement helps them
Right,
activate that.
absolutely. Yes. So their, sympathetic nervous system is constantly activated. So even if they come into a safe environment, of course, which we would consider safe, they would still constantly be, anxious, like something is going to happen, or they could be attacked. Those kind of feeling would come up, and all those feelings are within the body. We might say, yes, it's all in your mind, but it's also body memory, it's in the muscles. So that is something, through the body and movement that we work with.
Okay. Thank you so much. That was very, very illuminating. Since we are talking about nervous system and neurology, etc., I was very surprised when you said that you work with a lot of people who have neurodivergence and Parkinson's or autistic. Does the same thing work there as well? That is it still the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system in play there, or is there a different method in which movement helps them?
So with neurodivergence, again, certain bit part of this also comes in the sympathetic, parasympathetic. Again, we try to access the parasympathetic through movement. That is definitely there. But, with either Parkinson's or, children or adults with on the autism spectrum, children or adults on the autism spectrum, there is a lot more that we do through movement. Now, with Parkinson's, we work with, finding balance in the body, the gait, coordination. When I work with some of my the patients or clients, I've noticed, or some of them come and tell me, when I start the session, as they start the session, there's a lot of tremors in the body, and as they continue with movement, and this is something I've also noticed, that there is a kind of balance that sets in the body. I've noticed the tremors reduce at least for some time, and they're kind of calm and sitting down. And and even when they're moving, the movement becomes a little more flowy, in a very fluid state. And that was quite surprising when I started working with adults with Parkinson's. And then I started speaking to them, and they also started noticing, yes, my tremors seem to have reduced. And that again, it's the nervous system, something is happening where the body is a little more stabilized for some time. And some of them say, after movement for a long time through the day, they feel much calmer, and there is more balance within them.
Yeah, that is very interesting, isn't it? How it affects or helps different people. Okay, but Preeti, explain this to me. I think when I reached out to you, I made this mistake where I said, "Oh, can you also talk about somatic?" And then you
Hmm.
said, "I can talk about it, but movement and somatic are two different things." So explain to me and the rest of the people here, what is the difference between the two?
Okay. So somatic therapy is like an umbrella term, and that can include a lot of body-based work. Now, soma is body, so it includes a lot of body-based work techniques such as breath work, body awareness exercises, sensory tracking. Then there is somatic experiencing. So there are many techniques, so they all come under the somatic therapy. But and dance movement therapy is also under this, but here we are using movement as an expressive and therapeutic tool. So movement is what is used specifically, and it's not just about body awareness, but also helping the individual express. There is kinesthetic empathy involved, and there's a lot of movement exploration. So here movement is the primary tool that we use.
Okay, understood. Okay, it's not including breath or
Breath does come in. We do bring awareness to breath. Again, it is body based work, but like I said, somatic therapy can include a lot of other techniques as well, I would say.
Okay, all right, makes sense. So, see, the majority of counseling, especially in mental health, happens through talk therapy.
Mm.
Can be, psychodynamic or CBT or PCT, DBT, all of that. But can we combine movement therapy with any of these other modalities, or is movement a modality on its own?
No, it can definitely be combined. We have a lot of psychologists, using various, modalities who come and train with us, and they incorporate movement as part of their work. So they don't use movement primarily, but it definitely can bring in. So I can give you an example. So maybe a client with social anxiety, and the therapist uses CBT techniques to kind of challenge negative thoughts, about social interactions. Now, what we can do is use movement to kind of we pair these cognitive shifts with movement. So practicing upright posture and how you walk into the room, what kind of gestures, confident walking, so using both together kind of really embodies that, for the individual. They feel it within themselves. So I work with this a lot too, using movement. So I can give you another example. So one of the clients that I was recently working with, and they, as we were talking about something, actually after movement, they said something about, what came up was, a different layers of how I bloomed from a flower, and then became a more confident person. From there I was able to go and do something. Now this can come up in talk therapy as well, these cognitive shifts. Now what I did with them is help them actually embody this. So we started as a seed, kind of opened up, grew, and then became a tree, but felt the roots. Okay, and so when the client actually embodied this entire process, the individual was like, yeah, now I feel it, so I feel it like, okay, I was not a confident person, I couldn't do anything, but I felt that within me, something open up, and then the shoot of the plant actually grow, and we did this entire thing in movement. So when something comes up in talk therapy, that can be then embodied through movement, for them to actually feel it, experience it, and see, okay, how does it feel for them, in their body, to actually become confident, to grow like a tree and to stand tall. That is something I worked with that individual, that, okay, then finally let's become that tree which is stable, standing tall. And they just stood there for such a long time, and they're like, I feel it, it's not just the mind, I feel it in my body. I think that was a very powerful experience, I would say. So yeah, so definitely. And sometimes you know uh, psychodynamic therapy, if I were to talk about, somebody struggling with verbalizing feelings about their parent, so that we would then experience in movement on how did they feel when they were in the presence of the parent, sometimes curling up. Then from there, again, this was another client I had. I said, okay, from there, let us slowly stand up and open the body. And how does it feel? And that's a long process, because when they have always felt small, curled up, like, like sometimes
Baby.
they describe it, yeah, like a baby or a fetus, that's what
Mm.
one of my clients told me, and from there to actually open up and stand in front of the parent, so again, embodying that process. So again, from there, then that can lead to a lot of conversation about, the parent child interaction and what's the relationship. So, movement can then take you to a place where talk therapy happens. So, even in our sessions, it's not only movement that is used. So, post movement, there is a lot of talk that happens, and the conversation of what came up and what does it feel like, so talk happens after movement too, so definitely it can be incorporated.
That is very interesting because when I thought of movement, I only thought about, dance or,
Hmm.
moving the body as like an exercise. But what you're saying is, especially, I really like the part where you said for people with social anxiety, you ask them to, stand tall like a tree and put their shoulders back so that they feel confident, and that the posture's confidence
Right.
then flows through to your mind, and your mind feels confident because your posture is confident. So that is very interesting. I really, really like it. So is there any specific examples like that you can give us for, let's say, if I am anxious, for coming and talking in this webinar, or I am anxious about a particular event, not just talking, an exam that is coming up, this exam season after all. So, an exam that is coming up, is there any sort of movements that we can do at home or before such an event that will help us with our anxiety?
So, yeah, when you were mentioning one, I would want to say, when you say dance movement therapy, people first will think, oh, dancing, you dance and that's it, feel happy and go back. But there is so much more to it. That's why it's a dance movement therapy, because it's not about just dancing. We could use movement in various ways. And sometimes it could be very simple movement, and that could be just rolling your shoulders back, expanding your arms. Yeah. So even for something that, for students, especially adolescents who come to me, some simple things that I tell them is sometimes just shake it off. This again brings our nervous system and everything into balance. It's like kind of shaking different parts of the body. A lot of times I do that as part of my sessions. Sometimes we play some fun songs also, just shake it off. And yeah, so just dance to, like, yeah, 2 days back I played Elvis Presley, Jailhouse Rock, and we were shaking it off. But as you do that, that helps the body kind of release that tension that it is feeling. And again, the nervous system kind of comes into, balance. Uh, I think this Peter Levine from Somatic Experiences. He uses this example of how, I'm not going into the larger example of how animals, kind of shake off after a traumatic event. You see them shake it off, and that's one thing that humans can also use. So just shaking it off. So anytime you feel nervous or something, so you can just try this, just shaking your arms, legs, head, shoulders, and that's something I personally do too. So that's one thing. The other, again, bringing focus to the breath definitely helps. So something that I tell my clients, to work with is expanding movement. So kind of, just simple movements, sitting in one place, opening up, and again contracting, kind of bringing it to your chest, then again opening it out, opening up your chest. So, and again with this, inhaling and exhaling. So a combination of breath and movement really helps. Yeah, so these are some things, and I mean there is so much. It's all I would say, kind of based on each individual, what works for them. That's something that we do in the sessions, and then they try it out, outside the sessions. So, kind of finding what helps them in particular.
That is a good example, especially the shaking it off, right? That part. I have a teenage son, and I can tell you, he says it's because of his bad posture. But whenever there are exams coming up, he will always get some kind of neck problem all the time,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So I'm wondering if I should just ask him to, before exams or when he's studying, just shake it off, because that helps you move your
Right,
this
right.
shoulder part as well. And it, it, it- the teenagers are the ones who usually have a lot of emotional regulation problems, because they are dealing with so many emotions. They are angry one minute, they are really happy one minute, and then they don't want to anything to do with their parents and want to hang out with their friends. So they go through this array of emotions that they are new to, right? In a very small period. So, what would you suggest for a person like my son who's going through all of these transformation? What sort of movement would help them, especially when they're overwhelmed with emotions?
Right. So, one, definitely the shake it off. But I'm also wondering, if, I'm just as an example, keeping a lot of tension? Whatever tension is there, is he storing it in his neck? One of the places, a lot of people tend to store their tension, the neck, shoulders, jaw. So, one simple thing I do is sometimes, just get the people to gently even kind of massage their body, or tap, gentle massage with some movements. And again, it can just be simple movements, even while they are studying, just making sure, okay, let me do a bit of movement, as a movement break, take a movement break in between. That's something very simple that they can try. Now, for emotional regulation itself, I think it would be good to work with someone who can guide them, but I can just give you some of the techniques that we try. Okay, so now anger is, like you said, one of the emotions that comes up a lot with teenagers. I also have two teenagers at home. With and the teenagers that I work with, adolescents that I work with, so we use a lot of, like stomping movements, kind of help, stomp, like forceful stomping, move around the room, stomping their feet, and, kind of punching. And, these movements help them kind of release whatever that pent up energy, anger that they feel within, to let it out in a safe environment and in a safe way, so that they are more regulated, other times. And they know that, okay, there is a place that we can come and do this and not be judged for this. It's open, but something that, I also encourage them, to try out art also, because I do bring in a little bit of art as part of the, after movement. Sometimes we bring in art, kind of draw what are you feeling right now, maybe after the forceful movements, stomping movements. Can we draw what are you feeling right now? And it need not be anything, like a proper image, anything tangible. It could just be lines, it could be colors. What color is coming to your mind as you did those movements? Did that anger have a color? Something like that. And that's something that we use to draw. So expressing through movement, and then art. Then I bring in journaling as well. So then they write about all the feelings that they had within and why that anger was there, maybe just putting it down on paper. So that's something else that I try. Then there is, push and pull movement. movements that we do a lot. Sometimes it could be standing against a wall and pushing it. That again kind of lets go of that energy that they are feeling. So again, it could be personalized, I would say, for each individual, what works for them. But sometimes, bringing focus to breath. So synchronization of breath and movement. Now that could be simple movement, just breathing in and breathing out. And I would say, make breathe in, and when you're breathing out, try and slow this down, slow the out breath, like really slow it down, and that activates the parasympathetic again. So that directly activates the parasympathetic. So slowly breathing out, breathe out through your mouth. So it's like that again helps calm the body down. Again, something that anybody can do at home.
That is good. Okay, lot of good movement suggestions. And when you say that we ask children to stomp or punch, that lets them go of that anger. I have always felt when I have had a really stressful day and I'm actually mad about something, I go for boxing as a
Mm-hmm.
workout. And I thought it's making me feel less stress because I imagine the person or people I'm mad at, and then I am trying to punch them. But then it's not that imagination, it's actually the movement that is helping
Movement, yes,
them.
it's the movement that helps, that punching movement. So, I sometimes it's you just play music, and I use a lot of African percussion music at that time, and then just like I'm beating a drum. Sometimes that's a movement that I do, like just beating the drum, move around the room, and that helps kind of let go of that energy, anger that you're feeling inside.
Yeah, that must also help clients with ADHD, isn't it? When they, do all of those fast movements, drumming movements, boxing
Right.
movements. Or
Yeah.
is
So
there
with
something else that you do with them?
Yes, so with ADHD, with children with ADHD, it's a lot of, impulse control, kind of learning to control that energy that is there within them. So yeah, I use a lot of movements, fast movements, quick movements, so like sometimes it's a lot of play as well that is involved, in these sessions. But within that, still, there's a lot of attunement and kind of helping the individual move fast and then find calmness and slow down. So that is something that I work with, So again, you channelizing that energy within, through fast movements, and then finding that calm, and then noticing that calm within themselves.
Yeah. Slowly using the movement itself to drive the slowing down of your
Yes,
body,
yes, yes.
mind, breath. Yeah, that's
Right.
very interesting. So far we have been talking about individuals, like individuals who are angry or individuals who are anxious, individuals who need to calm down. But does the same kind of movement be applied for a couple who are going through something, or a family, not just a couple, family with kids? Can we do movement therapy to reconnect the family or process whatever they are going through?
Sure. Yes, definitely. Now, with couples, definitely a very, effective technique, I would say, because it helps explore this, the relationship dynamics between them, and in a very non-verbal embodied way, I would say, because here you're not talking and saying, okay, this is what you did, this is what I did, things like that. Here it's about the movement, body language, and attuning to each other. So attuning to each other is something that we use a lot in movement therapy. So like how you tune a radio, and find the right frequency. So similarly, I would say, when couples move with each other, they are trying to find that, the right frequency and tune into each other, be in sync with each other. So one, it helps enhance emotional connection between the couple. I think when they go through conflict, so there's a lot of emotional disconnection that happens. So we use techniques like mirroring. So mirroring through movement. So one of them moves and the other mirrors, and it's not just about copying the movements, but also kind of feeling what the other person is feeling. So initially probably takes time, but then we go into exploring movement more deeply of what is coming up within you, and that is expressed through movement. And maybe the spouse or partner mirrors those movements, and they feel what the other person is feeling. So that's one thing. Then the other thing that we do, improve communication, again through a lot of partner exercises, using gestures. It could be expressing only through gestures, right? So that's another way that we use movement to help improve communication. Then again, navigating conflict through movement, then building trust, playfulness, so play comes in quite a lot. Sometimes we bring in movement games as well, right? So those help, reconnect, bring that playfulness maybe which was lost within the couple. So these are some small things, that we do, like mirroring. Then there is weight sharing on, just putting all your weight on the other, how the other then balances you, that builds trust. Can you trust the person to put all your weight on them? So these are some techniques that we try.
Yeah, so I
And
have
yes,
about
sure.
that. The one person falls and the other person catches.
Yes,
I have seen that happen in corporate setting, Preeti, where teams have to work on a really, really difficult project. I have actually seen one therapist do that, and I was part of that session. They make you not see who's
yes,
behind you, and then they ask you to
yeah,
fall, and then the other person catches. And this is to enforce that your team is always there to
yes,
catch your
right,
back,
right,
and if you fall, they are there to catch you. So
right.
you work with corporate, so this can help with in a corporate setting as well, in a team setting.
Definitely, yes, yes. I do a lot of work with corporates, team dynamics. That's something that we do a lot of work with. One simple thing, like you said, it's the trust fall. Can you trust your team to, that they will catch you? So again, through movement, we bring in a lot of these exercises to help, the team bond and connect with each other. But apart from that, I work with, reducing stress and tension within the teams, within the individual, reducing stress. Then emotional intelligence is something that I bring into corporates quite a lot. And I think now, even the corporates are realizing. So people ask me a lot about these sessions. Let's talk about emotional intelligence, trying movement, music. Then there is leadership development also. I would say, embodied leadership. So actually feel the leadership qualities within yourself before you go to, lead a team. Or how is it for you to lead a team? And from there we take into conversations of, as a leader, how do you be present for your team, for the organization, and also for yourself, authentic leadership. So these are the different things that I work with. Then work life balance is something that, again, a lot of people are talking about. That's another thing that I use movement in.
How do you use movement for the work-life balance thing? Tell us a little bit about it. That's very interesting. I love that.
So, again, my focus a lot is to bring awareness to the body, because the body in everyday routine and everything is forgotten. It's just something that carries you around. Oh, I look fat, I need to reduce. Those are the only considerations. But the body has a lot of wisdom, so that is something that I channel. And, like, I think with the teenagers that we were talking about, I talk about, we said about movement breaks. So in corporates also, to bring in this work-life balance, it's not about, okay, work and life, so it's 50-50 or something like that. How can it be integrated that even during work, you as an individual are present, your life is still, it's part of it. So again, I bring people to focus on their body, on what's happening. How can you incorporate small movements within the office environment to, feel like this is not just work and I have to get back? Can it still be an enjoyable place? So check with your body what's happening. So again, bringing focus to, okay, where am I feeling tension in the body? Okay, and then working with that. So I take them through movements that they could use, in an office space. Sometimes, telling them, before like the day starts, what can you do before you start your day, so that you are present through the day and it's not just routine. So I take them through certain movements. Sometimes they come up with movements that they could use. So it's simple movements that they could use through the day.
I like what you said about work-life balance, right? It's not about work is 50% and life is 50%. That's not how it is. I listened to this podcast called Startup Therapy, and in that they say you need to have work-life harmony, and
Harmony.
that's what you need to achieve.
Yes.
And they keep saying that over and over in every one of their episode, that I do not like this term work-life balance.
I
It
think,
should be
yeah,
work-life harmony.
harmony.
I
I think
want to
that's a lovely
normalize
term.
using that term.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful term. Maybe I'll also switch to it. I think thank you for that. Yeah.
So, one more thing that I wanted to ask you. There is, whether it is in corporate or whether it is in family settings, right? Um, there can be grief of someone passing away. There can be grief over some failure, whether it is in work setting or in life setting. How have you used movement therapy to help people, not individuals, not just individuals, but family or a team or a group of individuals through grief?
I have not personally worked with a group, I would say, but yeah, I have done it with individuals.
Mhm.
But as a group, also, what's coming to me is, uh, if it is a family, or whatever setting, we could, use movement to express what they are feeling, or sometimes bringing closure to what they are feeling by coming up with a movement ritual or something that they all do together, if it is in honor of a person that they have lost as a family, or in, whatever it is, but using movement to come together, connect to each other, and then share the experience of this loss. So yeah, I would use like a movement ritual where they come up with some movement in their own way as a family, if I would say, to, help them express this loss, whatever they are feeling. And then I would take them through maybe, grounding movements that help them connect with each other. Again, after a loss, I think connecting with who is present is very important. But no, personally, I haven't worked with any groups.
Groups. Yeah. Okay. So we have a question from the audience, and we usually start to take audience questions at this time. Others who are there on the call, feel free to put your questions as well. So the question is, we were talking about corporates and how we incorporate movements. How can we do this sort of movement for companies that have remote kind of work when they are remote working? To connect individuals together, can we have some sort of movement that they can try remotely together?
It is challenging, I would say, because when they are remote, getting everyone to put videos on itself is a big challenge. But yes, it is challenging. But I think during COVID, I've worked with a few organizations, to try and help reconnect with everyone. And again, they're very simple movements, kind of even this boxes that we are in, using that and kind of forming these connections, I would say. Some simple things that I had done was, just holding each other's hands like this, even though we are not personally connected, and kind of moving together. That kind of happens towards the end of the session. And that brings in kind of a harmony within everyone. And, when they see everyone moving together, kind of swaying together, even though you're not physically touching anyone's hands, but it still feels like, yeah, we are in this thing together. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that is
I have
very nice
used,
to
yeah,
harmonize moving together. It'll
yes,
take them a couple of tries to make sure that everybody is moving similarly, but then once they do that, it feels like so joyous that we all made it happen together, you know? That's right.
right.
Very nice. Um, one more question. This is about how to learn movement therapy itself, Preeti. Can you suggest any colleges that offer good courses in movement therapy, as well as what is the pathway to become a movement therapist from your experience itself?
Right. So in India itself, there are different levels of training depending on the kind of work that you want to do. So there is certificate courses, there are a PG diploma, and then there is the master's program. Okay, so the certificate course, you become a facilitator, so you are trained to work with groups, and only groups, not individuals, and in non-clinical settings. Okay, so that's facilitator. Then there is the PG diploma programs that you become a practitioner, and then you, that again has certain limitations, of the kind of groups and individuals that you can work with, and that is not as much as the master's program. So the master's program that's available, in Pune, so that's the Sancheti Academy. So that is the master's program right now in India. So that is a 2-year program. So like the certificate course, I run it through the organization called CMTAI, and I'm the co-director of the course. So that's the facilitator training program. Then PG diplomas, I think you'll have to just search. There are a couple in India, and the masters there's just one right now in India. Otherwise, I think we have a lot of programs that are, running, I mean, that are in the UK, Europe, US, Canada. So those are, I think we have a lot of people who have trained there and who have come to India.
Okay.
That's the other pathway.
So Preeti, if you can provide some of the information after the webinar, when we publish all of the videos, I can put it in there so that people have that. I can also send it to all of the
Sure.
participants who registered so that they have this information as well. The next question from the audience is, does music play a major role during movement therapy, or can it be conducted even without music?
It can be conducted without music too. But yes, it does play a big role. A lot of times, at least in the beginning stages, people are not comfortable moving without music, but we use a lot of instrumental music. I try to avoid popular songs, I would say, because then it's based on the lyrics of the song takes over, and the movement is not coming from the individual. If it's a very popular song, they'll start doing the steps of that song, but instead of that, we're looking at the movement actually coming from within the individual. So, so it's instrumental music, but yes, we use music quite a lot. But there are times when we want to go into deeper work where some of the things we don't even need music. Sometimes I give a prompt and, the movement just starts flowing. And there is another part of dance and movement therapy called authentic movement, where the movers move without music for anywhere from 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour, and can go on to about an hour without any music. They are only moving, and that is coming from very deep within of what they are really feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so music is on the sides. It's the movement that takes
Yes.
precedent. Music is just a helper on the side. Okay, all right. The next question from the audience, how does somatic therapy help employees manage high pressure situations better? In your experience, could you please suggest what you may have done in the same situation while you have worked with corporates, especially with high pressure situation, not just team building?
Right. So I think my one thing that I focus on is bringing focus to the body, and the body's wisdom. So this is something I bring up a lot in my sessions on how, just bring focus, check in with your body, what's happening, what am I feeling right now, and, kind of help them. Even say it out loud. Okay, I am stressed right now. Just acknowledging that. So, getting this information from the body and saying, okay, I feel stressed. This is what I feel right now. And from there, like I said, we incorporate movements. Now, it could be something as simple or as, can I get up and walk? Just take a walk and come back. Can I go out if there is nature, trees around? Can I just spend a few minutes and come back inside? So these are some things that we do. But I would suggest, I think organizations need to have continuous, employee engagement or programs that run, which will help, people in high stress environments to de-stress kind of regularly. Yes, we give them these tools, but sometimes, as days pass by, they forget. So sometimes it's important to come back, try it again, experience it again, and, again, then go back to trying it, on their own. I think it's really important that this is done a few times, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely true. Absolutely true. Even when we learn something, you have to learn many times for it to become your muscle memory. And the same is true for your body as well. It needs to be done regularly for it to become muscle memory, for you to realize where the stress are lying, how to make sure that you're moving enough to de-stress. So yeah, absolutely. The next question is, can we also incorporate movement therapy with transgender and remedial groups like that of rescued population from sex trafficking, victims of domestic violence, etc.? Is there a special skill that is required for that? or can it be through the trauma-informed therapy itself? How relevant are they with movement therapy in this case?
I think it's very important that the therapists are trauma informed. Definitely in these while working with these groups, I think because there is a lot that will come up, so trauma informed is definitely important. And yes, movement can be used, with transgender populations or rescued populations like. There is Shohini Kolkata Shonved from Kolkata, where they work with uh, rescued girls, from sex trafficking. So they, that entire thing has been built around that model of working with girls, and these girls then training and going and working with other, girls who have been rescued. So movement can help them first, find safety for themselves because of all that they have gone through. So finding safety, again, very important to be trauma informed here. Finding safety, and finding a connection, ways of connecting with each other again. Again, that becomes such a thing, to be able to connect with another individual. So finding connection, finding confidence within themselves, connecting with their body. When the body itself becomes the source of the trauma that they have experienced, I think, body based and movement can be a way to reconnect with the body, I would say. So yes, a lot of work has been done with these groups. There's a lot of literature. I would encourage you to read up about that, and definitely has been used.
Okay, that is a really, really good question and an excellent answer, Preeti. I know there were a few more things that we wanted to discuss, but we took a lot of questions from the audience. The audience were very engaging. Thank you so much for that. But because we are talking about a special population, I want to bring back one of the questions that I wanted to talk about. What are some ethical considerations that we need to work with when it comes to movement therapy? Because whenever we talk about psychology and counseling and everything, we always keep ethics in mind. So, are there any specific different sort of ethical consideration that we need to keep when we are working with movement therapy?
With again movement therapy, I think a lot of the others would apply, whatever
Mhm.
is used in talk therapy. Again, informed consent comes in, and helping the individual understand what are they getting into, what is movement, and how they'll engage in movement. And a lot of times giving the individual the choice of, do they want to move right now, and maybe they don't want to move, can we engage in something else? Maybe they don't want to move today, can we just move our fingers today, or maybe move our toes today? So being open to this. Now, movement does not mean we every time, every session, we have to get up and dance. Some days we don't, we may even lie on the floor and just move our fingers. Yeah, so being open to this, and informed consent, agency with the client, I think that's important. The other thing that I can think of is touch. Because in movement, touch can come in, but I think it has to be with the consent of the group, the individual, asking them first, is it okay? Are you okay? And even if touch comes in, the intentionality of the touch, I think, becomes very important, because there are therapists who would not use touch at all in movement work, but there are others who do use movement, I mean, sorry, touch, in movement. But as long as you know that the client is okay with it, and the touch is safe, gentle, that helps them feel safe in this, space. I think that is the other thing that's coming into mind.
Okay, all right. That makes sense. That absolutely makes sense. So we are 1 minute over, but any parting words for the young therapists who are aspiring to become or come into the line of movement therapy? What are your parting words, Preeti?
I would say if you're going to take up movement, please train. Don't just learn some techniques and say, okay, now I can use movement thoroughly, because there is a lot behind it. I would really suggest to train in it if you're going to be using movement. Whatever training it is, there are different levels. Choose what is right for you. That would be the first thing. And I would say, experience movement for yourself first. I think that would be the other key thing. Once you experience, how it helps, how you can take it forward. And I think for me, one thing I would say is trust the process. And, through movement, I think a lot of my students also, I tell them, trust the process. It works, just allow it to flow. Yeah, so movement isn't, just a technique. It's a philosophy of working with the body, not against it. We are working with the body, instead of against the body, I would say. So yeah, for me, working with the body is makes a lot of sense. It just clicks for me. And I would say, yeah, try and explore this, this modality, and see how it works for you.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely, for one, I'm going to try the stress busting technique that you taught about shaking and more boxing for sure. So thank you so much, Preeti. You have been amazing. So much information. I am really clear on what movement therapy was when I started. I had a vague idea, but it's very, very clear now. Thank you so much for that. And audience, amazing interaction. You have made this a very, very interactive session. Thank you so much for all of your questions.
Thank you so much, Veda, and for the great questions and this great conversation. I really enjoyed it. And thank you to the audience too for your questions.
All right. Have a good evening, everyone. See you all in the next Sensible webinar. Until then, bye bye.